Welcome to the deep dive. Listeners really threw us a curveball this time, asking us to tackle Justine Gaader's Sophie's World.
Yeah.
It's a novel, yeah, but it's also like this crash course in Western philosophy, weaving all these huge ideas into the story of this, very curious 14-year-old.
Mhm.
So our mission is to really kind of tease out those thought-provoking nuggets and see how they all connect.
I think what's so intriguing about this book is the way it uses the narrative of Sophie, this seemingly, ordinary teenager who starts receiving these mysterious letters to guide us through this vast landscape of philosophical thought. So like we're invited to join her on this intellectual adventure.
Right. And what an adventure it is. I mean, from the Big Bang to Norse myths about frost giants, from Socrates' trial to the possibility of a glitch in the Matrix. I mean, this book really doesn't shy away from the big questions.
It doesn't.
And speaking of big questions, the book kind of starts out by posing a few that have really echoed through the ages.
Yeah.
Where does the world come from?
What is a human being? What does it even mean to live a good life? And Gardner so brilliantly connects these, profound questions to Sophie's everyday experiences, like her staring into a mirror, pondering her own existence.
It's relatable, isn't it? That moment of looking at your reflection and questioning, who you are and what your place is in this grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
That's really what philosophy is all about, right?
Yeah.
Examining those fundamental questions that we all grapple with, whether we realize it or not.
Totally. And then, he throws in this whole myth of Midgard from Norse mythology where these like frost giants are trying to destroy the world.
Right.
Talk about an attention grabber.
Yeah, that myth is such a powerful metaphor, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It speaks to that universal human desire for order and meaning in the face of chaos. Even today, we see that same struggle reflected in our anxieties about, climate change, political upheaval, even the uncertainties of our personal lives. We crave a sense of stability and understanding in a world that often feels turbulent and unpredictable. Absolutely. But it's not just about myth and metaphor. We're quickly introduced to the pre-Socratics, these early Greek philosophers who were just obsessed with figuring out, what the world is made of. Like Thales, who believed that everything ultimately originated from water. I mean, that might seem kind of overly simplistic today, but think about it.
I mean, Thales was searching for a unifying principle.
Yeah.
Some common thread that connected the seemingly disparate elements of the natural world.
Right.
His idea of water as the fundamental substance wasn't just about the physical properties of water. It reflected a deeper philosophical quest to find order and coherence in the universe.
So then you have Anaximander with his concept of the boundless, this like formless, infinite, primordial substance that everything arises from, and Anaximenes, who believed that air was the key, that its condensation and rarefaction created different forms. I mean, it's amazing to see these early thinkers wrestling with the very concepts that still challenge like physicists and cosmologists today.
The idea of something arising from nothing was a particularly difficult concept for them to grasp, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And their attempts to conceptualize a primordial substance like the boundless or air as the source of all things, shows how human beings have always striven to understand the origins of the universe.
Yeah.
They were grappling with some really profound questions.
And then there's Empedocles, who said, hold on, I think there are 4 elements. Earth, air, fire, and water.
The classic elements.
Classic elements that even today we use as metaphors to describe personalities and temperaments. It's fascinating how these ancient ideas continue to permeate our language and thought.
Empedocles' theory was incredibly influential.
Oh, yeah.
Went far beyond just describing the physical world.
Yeah.
It captured the imagination of alchemists, physicians, and even artists for centuries. Imagine the impact of a theory that claimed to explain the fundamental building blocks of the entire universe.
Oh, wait, there's more.
There's always more.
Anaxagoras proposed that everything was composed of tiny particles that contained a bit of everything else, kind of like what we might call a microcosm.
Right.
This theory kind of foreshadows some pretty mind-bending ideas in modern science, like holograms and the interconnectedness of all things at the quantum level.
It does. His concept of everything and everything seems almost prophetic. It challenges our intuitive understanding of separate objects and suggests a deeper underlying unity in the universe.
Right.
In a way, Anaxagoras paved the way for the holistic view of nature that's becoming increasingly popular today.
And then we arrive at Democritus, the philosopher who drop the atomic bomb, so to speak.
Yeah.
His concept of atoms, tiny indivisible particles that make up everything, completely revolutionized our understanding of the physical world.
Imagine how radical that idea must have sounded at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Democritus was proposing that the world was not made up of the readily observable elements like earth, air, fire, and water, but of invisible particles interacting in a void. This was a huge leap forward in abstract thinking, and a precursor to modern atomic theory.
So you're saying that our modern understanding of the universe with its atoms, quarks, and quantum mechanics has its roots in these ancient Greek thinkers.
In a way, yes.
Pretty incredible. But our journey through Sophie's world doesn't stop there. Hold on tight, because we're about to encounter one of the most influential figures in Western philosophy, Socrates.
Oh, yeah.
So now we get to Socrates, and it's funny, we know Socrates didn't write anything down himself. Right? So everything we know about him comes from his students, mainly Plato.
Right.
Which is kind of ironic considering his whole deal was about, questioning everything to get at the truth.
It certainly adds another layer of complexity to understanding his philosophy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're essentially relying on interpretations of interpretations.
Right.
But I don't think that diminishes the impact of Socrates' ideas.
Right.
He really shifted the focus of philosophy from the natural world to human reason and morality.
Yeah, and he didn't just lecture about it. He actually went out there and engaged people in dialogue using his famous Socratic method to really challenge their assumptions and expose inconsistencies in their thinking.
Socrates wasn't afraid to ruffle feathers, was he?
No, he wasn't.
He constantly questioned conventional wisdom, even if it meant challenging authority figures and making enemies.
Right.
In fact, that unwavering commitment to truth-seeking ultimately led to his trial and execution for corrupting the youth and impiety.
Wow.
It's a stark reminder of how dangerous ideas can be, especially when they challenge the status quo.
Talk about standing up for your convictions.
Yeah.
But how do we go from this gadfly philosopher who roamed the streets of Athens, engaging in debates, to Plato and his theory of forms? It's quite a leap.
Well, Plato was deeply affected by Socrates' death, and it really shaped his philosophical outlook.
Okay.
He came to believe that true knowledge could be found in the ever-changing sensory world around us. That's where his theory of forms comes in.
Okay, here's where I need a little clarification. Forms.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about, like perfect circles and squares?
Well, imagine concepts like justice, beauty, or even the idea of a chair, but in their purest, most perfect form.
Okay.
These are Plato's forms. He believed that these perfect forms existed in a separate realm beyond our senses.
Okay.
Everything we experience in the physical world is just an imperfect copy or a shadow of these true forms.
So for Plato, the the concept of chairness is more real than any chair I could actually sit on.
Precisely.
That's pretty mind-bending.
Yeah.
Wow.
And to illustrate this, Plato used the famous allegory of the cave. Imagine people chained in a cave their whole lives, seeing only shadows projected on the wall. They mistake those shadows for reality, not realizing that there's a whole world outside the cave.
Okay, wow. That image really drives home the point.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what shadows we're mistaking for reality in our own lives. Are we trapped in our own limited perspectives, unable to see the true nature of things?
That's the challenge Plato throws down to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's urging us to question everything we perceive, to use reason and critical thinking to break free from the cave of our limited senses and strive to apprehend the true forms. He saw philosophers as those who could escape the cave and guide others towards enlightenment.
So basically, philosophy is kind of a cave escape plan.
In a way, yes.
But, if we're talking about philosophers who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty with the real world, we have to talk about Aristotle, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He was all about observation and logic.
Yeah, while Plato focused on the abstract realm of forms, his student Aristotle brought philosophy back down to earth, literally.
Right.
He believed we could understand the world through careful observation and logical reasoning.
Yeah.
He even developed a system for categorizing knowledge, laying the foundation for scientific disciplines like biology and physics.
He was also big on virtue and happiness, wasn't he?
He was.
I remember that whole idea of finding fulfillment by living in accordance with our true nature and reaching our full potential as human beings seems like pretty solid advice even thousands of years later.
It's a philosophy that continues to resonate, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
The idea that happiness isn't just about, fleeting pleasures, but about living a virtuous life, cultivating good habits, and striving for excellence in all we do. It's a powerful message that transcends time and culture.
So we've explored ancient Greece and some of the most influential ideas in Western philosophy.
You have.
But Sophie's World doesn't stop there. It takes us on a journey through history, exploring how these ideas evolved and influenced different cultures and
He
eras.
does.
Next stop, the Middle Ages, where Christianity takes center stage.
Yeah, this period's fascinating because we see how philosophy becomes intertwined with religious belief. New religious formations emerge, blending elements of Christianity with pre-existing pagan traditions.
Right.
Think about how even Christmas, a holiday we associate so strongly with Christianity, incorporates elements from earlier pagan winter solstice celebrations.
It's like a cultural tapestry with threads from different traditions weaving together to create something new.
It is.
And amidst this fusion of ideas, we encounter philosophers like Epicurus, who believed that pleasure was the ultimate good, and that happiness could be achieved by seeking out pleasure and avoiding pain. Sounds pretty appealing on the surface, but...
It's important to remember that Epicurus wasn't advocating for a life of hedonistic excess.
Right.
He believed in moderation and finding pleasure in simple things like friendship knowledge and living in harmony with nature.
Yeah.
His philosophy was about finding contentment and tranquility, not just indulging in fleeting sensory experiences.
Then there's Plotinus with his Neoplatonism, essentially a mystical interpretation of Plato's ideas.
Right.
He believed in a divine light, the one that emanates throughout the universe, creating everything we see. Talk about a cosmic perspective.
Plotinus's ideas had a profound impact on both Christian and Islamic thought.
Yeah.
He emphasized the importance of mystical experiences, suggesting that we can achieve union with the divine through contemplation and spiritual practice. It's a concept that continues to resonate with people seeking a deeper connection to something beyond the material world.
But it's not all just mystical contemplation, right? We also see the rise of universities during the Middle Ages, these bustling centers of learning where a new style of philosophy, scholasticism, starts to take shape.
Yeah. The emergence of universities was a game changer for intellectual life in Europe. It led to a revival of interest in classical philosophy, particularly Aristotle's works, which had been largely forgotten in the West.
Right.
Scholasticism, with its emphasis on logic and reason, emerged as a way to reconcile Christian theology with the rediscovery of classical thought.
And this is where we meet some heavy hitters like St. Augustine, who grappled with some pretty weighty issues like faith versus reason, free will versus predestination, not exactly light dinner conversation.
Augustine's philosophy is incredibly complex and thought-provoking.
Oh, yeah.
He emphasized the role of divine grace in salvation, arguing that humans are inherently flawed and incapable of achieving salvation through their own efforts. But he also wrestled with the problem of evil and the nature of free will, trying to reconcile human agency with God's omnipotence.
Then we have Aquinas, who tried to synthesize Aristotle's philosophy with Christian theology.
Right.
He believed that reason and faith could coexist and complement each other in our understanding of God and the universe. It's like he's trying to bridge the gap between the ancient world and the Christian worldview.
Aquinas' work was incredibly influential and helped shape Catholic thought for centuries.
Right.
He argued that we could use reason to understand the natural world, while faith provided insights into the divine realm. It was a bold attempt to reconcile two seemingly disparate ways of knowing.
But then things start to shift again, don't they?
You do.
The Renaissance arrives, bringing with it a renewed focus on human reason individualism and the rediscovery of classical learning.
Yeah.
It's like history is rhyming, bringing us back to the themes of ancient Greece.
The Renaissance marked a significant turning point in Western history and culture. It challenged the authority of the church and emphasized human potential and achievement.
Right.
Thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo embodied this spirit, pushing the boundaries of art, science, and invention.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, we can't forget the scientific revolution.
Oh, yeah.
Copernicus, Kepler, Galileo, Newton, these guys completely revolutionized our understanding of the universe.
They did.
Challenging long-held beliefs and paving the way for modern science.
The scientific revolution wasn't just about new discoveries.
Yeah.
It was about a fundamental shift in how we acquire knowledge.
Right.
The emphasis on observation, experimentation, and mathematical reasoning challenged the reliance on traditional authorities and ushered in a new era of empirical inquiry.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the power of human curiosity and the relentless pursuit of truth.
And then, boom, the Reformation hits.
Yeah.
Martin Luther challenges the Catholic Church, sparking a religious and political upheaval that transforms the landscape of Europe. Talk about shaking things up.
The Reformation was a pivotal moment in European history.
For sure.
It challenged the authority of the Catholic Church and led to the emergence of Protestantism with its emphasis on individual conscience, the Bible as the ultimate source of authority and a direct relationship with God.
Right.
It's a powerful example of how ideas can have a transformative impact on society.
It seems like every few centuries the world gets turned upside down.
It does.
But after all that revolution and upheaval, we arrive at the Baroque period, a time of elaborate art, intense emotion, and a fascination with the fleeting nature of life.
Yeah.
It's almost a theatrical response to the uncertainties of the times.
The Baroque period was marked by a sense of drama and grandeur. Think of those elaborate Baroque churches with their ornate decorations, soaring ceilings, and dramatic use of light and shadow.
Right.
It's a style that reflects both the religious fervor and the intellectual ferment of the era.
Gaader uses the metaphor of life as a theater to describe this period,
He does.
suggesting that we're all actors on a stage, playing our roles until the curtain falls. It's a powerful image that captures the Baroque fascination with theatricality illusion and the ever-present awareness of death.
It's a reminder, isn't it, that life is fleeting and that we should savor each moment.
Yeah.
The Baroque artists and writers explored themes of love loss and the search for meaning in a world that often felt chaotic and unpredictable. It's a perspective that still resonates with us today.
But then just when things are getting heavy, the lights come up and we're in the Enlightenment.
Yeah.
Reason, liberty, progress, it's like a breath of fresh air.
The Enlightenment was a period of remarkable intellectual and social change.
For sure.
It celebrated reason and human progress, challenging traditional hierarchies and advocating for individual rights and freedoms.
Right.
Thinkers like Locke, Berkeley, and Hume laid the foundation for modern democracy, science, and philosophy.
Locke was big on natural rights and the social contract ideas that would inspire revolutions in America and France. It's fascinating to see how philosophical ideas can have such a profound impact on political and social movements.
The Enlightenment wasn't just about abstract theories. It was about applying reason to solve real-world problems and create a more just and equitable society. It's a legacy that continues to shape our world today.
But as with everything, there was a counter-movement.
Right.
The Romantics weren't so keen on all this emphasis on reason and logic.
Yeah.
They celebrated emotion, intuition, and the power of the imagination.
The Romantics rebelled against the Enlightenment's emphasis on rationality and order. They were fascinated by nature myth and the darker aspects of the human psyche. Think of those wild, stormy landscapes in Romantic paintings, or the passionate poetry of Wordsworth and Coleridge.
It's like they were reminding us that there's more to life than just cold, hard logic, right?
Exactly.
They saw beauty and meaning in the subjective experience and the emotional depths of the human heart.
The Romantics emphasized the importance of feeling intuition and the creative power of the imagination. They believed that art and literature could offer a deeper understanding of the world than science or reason alone could provide.
Right.
It's a perspective that continues to inspire artists and writers today.
But Sophie's world keeps moving forward through the 19th century and into the philosophical heavyweights of the era.
Yeah.
Next up is Hegel, who blew everyone's mind with his concept of the dialectic.
Hegel. He was one of those philosophers you either love or hate.
Yeah.
His ideas are notoriously complex, but incredibly influential. His concept of the dialectic, the idea that history progresses through a process of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, was revolutionary.
So it's not just about one idea being right and the other being wrong, but about ideas clashing, evolving, and eventually synthesizing into something new. It's like an ongoing intellectual dance where each step builds upon the previous one.
Exactly. Hegel saw this dialectical process at work everywhere, not just in history, but in philosophy, science, even in our own personal development.
Right.
He believed it was the engine driving progress and the evolution of human consciousness. It's a powerful concept that challenges us to see ideas not as static entities, but as dynamic forces in constant dialogue with each other.
But then Kierkegaard enters the scene and throws a wrench in Hegel's grand scheme.
Yeah.
He's all about individual existence, personal responsibility, and that leap of faith that transcends reason.
Kierkegaard was a deeply religious thinker who rejected Hegel's grand narratives of historical progress. He focused on the individual's subjective experience of faith and the existential choices we face in life. He believed that true faith required a leap of faith, a decision to believe in something beyond the realm of reason and evidence.
It's a scary but also liberating idea, isn't it?
It is.
The idea that we have the freedom to choose our own beliefs, but also the responsibility to live with the consequences of those choices.
Exactly. Kierkegaard's philosophy challenged people to take ownership of their beliefs and live authentically, even in the face of uncertainty and doubt. He emphasized the importance of individual responsibility and the search for meaning in a world that often feels absurd and meaningless.
And then we have Marx, who turned everything upside down with his critique of capitalism.
Yeah.
It's like he took Hegel's dialectic and applied it to the economic and social realities of the 19th century.
Marx was a revolutionary thinker who analyzed the economic forces shaping society.
Right.
He believed that capitalism was inherently exploitative and would eventually be overthrown by a socialist revolution.
Right.
He saw history as a struggle between classes, with the working class ultimately triumphing over the capitalist class.
He talked about class struggle alienation and the need for workers to seize control of the means of production. His ideas were controversial, but they had a profound impact on 20th century history, inspiring revolutions and social movements around the world.
Whether you agree with his conclusions or not, Marx's analysis of capitalism raised crucial questions about economic inequality, power dynamics, and the social consequences of unfettered market forces.
We've gone from ancient Greece to 19th century Europe, from metaphysics to economics. This is one whirlwind tour through history. And just when you think we've covered it all, another intellectual bombshell explodes: Darwin and his theory of evolution.
Darwin's work was a game changer, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
His theory of evolution by natural selection offered a revolutionary new way to understand the diversity of life on Earth. It challenged traditional beliefs about the creation of species and provided a scientific explanation for the process of biological change over time.
Natural selection, adaptation, survival of the fittest. These ideas completely transformed biology and had a profound impact on how we view ourselves and our place in the natural world.
Darwin's work sparked intense debate and controversy, but it ultimately revolutionized our understanding of life on Earth. It demonstrated that change is a fundamental principle of nature, not just in the biological realm, but in all aspects of the universe.
And as we move into the 20th century, we see a shift towards existentialism, a philosophy that grapples with the meaninglessness of existence and the freedom and responsibility of the individual.
Yeah, existentialism emerged in a world shattered by war and disillusionment. Thinkers like Sartre and de Beauvoir questioned traditional values and emphasized the individual's freedom to create meaning in a seemingly absurd and indifferent universe.
Sartre famously said, "Existence precedes essence," suggesting that we're born into this world without a predefined purpose or meaning.
Right.
It's up to us to define who we are and what our lives will stand for.
Existentialism was a call to action, urging individuals to embrace their freedom and create their own values in a world stripped of traditional certainties.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy that continues to resonate with people searching for meaning in a complex and often bewildering world.
But as we navigate the complexities of existence, we face a new challenge, don't we?
We do.
The environmental crisis forces us to confront our relationship with nature and the consequences of our actions on a global scale.
The emergence of eco-philosophy is a direct response to the growing awareness of humanity's impact on the planet. It challenges us to move beyond a human-centered worldview and recognize the intrinsic value of all living things and the interconnectedness of all life on Earth.
It's a call to action, urging us to find ways to live in harmony with nature and create a more sustainable future.
Eco-philosophy raises some of the most pressing, ethical, and philosophical questions of our time.
Yeah.
It forces us to reconsider our values, our lifestyles, and our responsibilities to future generations.
We've journeyed from the Big Bang to the environmental crisis, from ancient Greece to the 20th century. It's been quite a whirlwind tour of philosophical thought.
Yes.
All through the lens of this young girl named Sophie and her mysterious mentor. But wait, remember that glitch in the Matrix we mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Well, things are about to get really meta, so it turns out Sophie and Alberto, the characters we've been following this whole time, might actually be characters in a book.
Right.
Creations of this unseen author, Hild's father.
Yeah.
It's like Gaader's pulling back the curtain and revealing the artifice of the story, shattering the fourth wall, so to speak.
I think this metafictional twist is one of the most intriguing aspects of Sophie's world, wouldn't you say?
Oh,
It forces us to question the nature of reality itself. If Sophie and Alberto are fictional characters, what does that say about their free will? Are they merely puppets controlled by the whims of the author? And what about us, the readers? Are we also characters in some grander narrative subject to forces beyond our comprehension?
Okay, my head is officially spinning.
Yeah.
This raises so many questions. It's that moment in the Matrix when Neo realizes the world he thought was real is just a computer simulation.
Right.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew.
I think Gaader uses this metafictional twist to highlight the power of ideas and the limitations of our own perception. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
he's reminding us that there's always more to the story than we might initially realize, and that our understanding of reality is constantly evolving just when we think we've figured things out.
Yeah.
A new perspective emerges, challenging our assumptions and forcing us to reevaluate our beliefs.
So what's the takeaway here? Are we supposed to walk away from this book feeling like nothing is real and we're all just characters in someone else's story?
Well, I don't think the point is to create a sense of nihilism or despair,
Right.
but rather to encourage us to think critically about the nature of reality consciousness and our own place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Gaader doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, he invites us to engage in the philosophical conversation, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of existence.
Speaking of embracing the unknown, what about that ending?
Yeah.
Sophie and Alberto literally drive off into the unknown, seemingly escaping the book they're trapped in.
It's a symbolic act of rebellion, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're breaking free from the constraints of their predetermined narrative, asserting their own agency and the power of human consciousness to transcend its limitations. It's a powerful message about the potential for human freedom and the importance of questioning authority, even the authority of an all-powerful author.
So are they actually free, or are they simply entering another layer of reality, another story within a story? Gaader leaves it open to interpretation, which is both frustrating and brilliant.
That ambiguity is what makes the ending so thought-provoking. It's a reminder that the search for knowledge and meaning is an ongoing process, and that there are always new layers of reality to uncover. Just when we think we've reached the end, a new horizon opens up, inviting us to continue exploring.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? From the pre-Socratics to eco-philosophy, from the Big Bang to the glitch in the Matrix, Sophie's World takes us on a whirlwind tour of Western philosophical thought. It's been an incredible journey, but I have to admit, I'm still wrestling with some of these big questions.
And that's the beauty of philosophy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about finding definitive answers, but about engaging in the ongoing conversation, challenging our assumptions, and expanding our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So what does it all mean? What do we do with all these ideas and insights? What's the point of studying philosophy anyway?
I think Sophie's World offers a compelling answer to that question. It's not just about learning about different philosophical theories, but about developing critical thinking skills, questioning our assumptions, and cultivating a sense of wonder and curiosity about the world. Philosophy can help us make sense of our experiences, navigate the complexities of life, and become more engaged and thoughtful citizens.
It's like Gaader is saying, here are some of the most important ideas that humanity has grappled with over the centuries now. Go out there and make your own meaning, contribute to the conversation, and live a more examined and fulfilling life.
Exactly. Sophie's World is not just a novel. It's an invitation to embark on our own philosophical adventures, to continue the search for knowledge and understanding.
So if you're feeling intellectually stimulated and eager to delve deeper into the world of philosophy, I highly recommend picking up a copy of Sophie's World. It's a book that will stay with you long after you finish reading it.
And remember, as Socrates famously said, the unexamined life is not worth living. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep searching for meaning.
Because, as Sophie's journey shows us, the adventure of philosophy is just beginning.